at your home, nigga. Yeah. Go on, get on that ass real quick one time. 144, bitch.
Run that shit up, Trey.
They said you get on, you gon' represent. I said, of course. Soon as they crank that beat, I ride that bitch just like a horse. She about to go dumb, yeah, bitch, me a whole car. You ain't know they call me Obi-Wan. I come with the force. You gon' ride, yeah, of course. Get it lit up like a torch. You either low or this low. Told that bitch is either or. Yeah, I know them niggas ain't cut like that. I swear I'm too hardcore. Wait up, let me make a call right quick. I'ma start another war. I was hurting when she left, but I don't care about anymore. I need a Vaseline like my Nina Puffer Ford. Told Gazak, watch the door. Matter of fact, lock the door. Any problem, let them come. We gon' snatch they soul like Shang Tsung. Put them out of service, keep them tools like Miss Harbor Free. Try to hold me, it's way too late. I'm headed straight to the safe. Throw that one up like a trophy. I'm that nigga, ain't no debate. Told them boys we taking over. Call them up like set the date. This shit a piece of cake. Yeah, my bitches came from Whole Foods. Told them put on that top 3. Then bring me my house shoes. Don't make excuses, make moves. These niggas ungrateful, gotta show them UPK rules. I make hits like I can't lose. They said you get on, you gon' represent. I said of course. Soon as they crank that beat, I ride that bitch just like a horse. She about to go dumb, yeah, bitch, me a whole car. You ain't know they call me Obi-Wan. I come with the force. You gon' ride, yeah, of course. Get it lit up like a torch. You either low or this low. Told that bitch is either or. Yeah, I know them niggas ain't cut like that. I swear I'm too hardcore. Yeah, I just got off the call. I'ma start another war. Spit a plate up with my niggas. Get your knife and your fork. They ain't locked in with the count. And when you speaking to me, fart. Yeah, I just took the floor. Ain't no cowards in my campaign. They can't stop the campaign. Tell them bring the champagne. They know I'm a champion. They can see the outcome. Get them niggas bad. Got them tied down and out there. Can't do with them steppers. Niggas been down since day one. We run up the bands, bitch, like Dylan. They say you get on, you gon' represent. I said, of course. Soon as they crank that beat, I ride that bitch just like a horse. Yeah, about to go dumb, yeah, bitch, we whole car. You ain't know they call me Obi-Wan. I come with the force. You gon' ride, yeah, of course. Get it lit up like a torch. You either low or this low. Told that bitch is either or. I told you niggas, you ain't cut like that. I swear I'm too hardcore. And I just made the call. We gon' start another war. Yeah.
Backstage.
Yeah, nigga. Fake ass nigga.
You ain't no Israelite, but you a gospelite, bitch.
Fuck you talking about?
If that nigga won't walk, bitch, we ready. It ain't hard to find us. Hawk, I keep that stick locked, loaded, boy, he'll fade you line up. Young nigga name is Slayer. What you think, boy? You be done to try. South Coast shit, we bout it. UPK, you solid. Little bitch think I'm crazy, think I'm playing like bitch, I ain't the one. Warfare every day, so who is you, bitch? I don't need your love. Killers right round the way. What you think? I love this brotherhood. Hood. More than you, bitch. Sharp on shit, I'm bout it. UPK, too solid. Fuck nigga don't want war. It ain't enough clips in your army. All the bitches wanna take my piece. Why they hoe wanna take my piece? All the nigga wanna take my piece. No, I can't let a dog take it from me. I can't let a dog take it from me. You a hoe study and you dummy. And these bitches really out this bitch walking around like they don't know nothing. And a lame nigga fall for them and get set up for the coins and get gunned down, man down. Shoulda took the time, get a damn no. But I see the starter and I show her. She could never get a priest hoeing. You a dirt ass, rust ass neck bitch with that fake ass jewelry. In Tennessee while I'm touring. It's a Tennessee, but she luring. Yeah, that sucker duck bitch ass boy, fuck nigga over that bit muggin'. I say, if that nigga won't walk, bitch, we ready. It ain't hard to find us. Hawk, I keep that stick locked, loaded, boy, he'll fade you line up. Young nigga name is Slayer. What you think, boy? You be done to try. South Coast shit, we bout it. UPK, too solid. Little bitch think I'm crazy, think I'm playing like bitch, I ain't the one. Warfare every day, so who is you, bitch? I don't need your love. Killers right round the way. What you think? I love this brotherhood. Hood. More than you, bitch. You a lame nigga down to me. Eat candy, but I'm sucker free. You a little nigga, ain't none of me. Base up, boy, I fit a beat. Yeah, AR-223. Draco with a magazine. Yeah, that clip run like limousine. I shoot your ass in the spleen. Boy, I bust your ass in the temple. We debating by the temple. Tell the truth, boy, you's a victim. And you're scoring off like streets, nigga. UPK play for keys, nigga. Commander General get a damn order, but ain't nothing to me to damn kill you. I was stalking his ass like a cat. All weapons, boys full of tech. Ball like a close comeback. Nigga got popped off for a neck. If that nigga won't walk, bitch, we ready. It ain't hard to find us. Hawk, I keep that stick locked, loaded, boy, he'll fade you line up. Young nigga name is Slayer. What you think, boy, you be done to try. South Coast shit, we bout it. UPK shoot solid, little bitch think I'm crazy, think I'm playing like bitch, I ain't the one. Warfare every day, so who is you, bitch? I don't need your love. Killers right round the way. What you think? I love this brotherhood or hood? More than you, bitch.
Christ said 7 women gonna be on one nigga in the end time. Nigga, fuck wrong with you, boy. I'm stressed by that damn hoe ass bitch. Fake ass nigga too. Dumb ass motherfucker. Fuck you.
Backstage. Yeah, you know what it is. 140 for the rapper, busy man shit, nigga. They take their head over, nigga. I read what Eve did to Adam, I just pray my love don't lie to me. Swing the iron like Samson, I can't let no hoe to lie to me. I don't feel these rappers, all they lies is hypocrisy. Ain't no competition, ain't no rivalry. Nigga think I'm playing, I don't hear one word they saying, this shit light work. Think Muhammad one of us, he might lose his life first. Suckle up and stay alert. Another cop just stretched the nigga. He a demon, it's an exorcism. Watch I bless the nigga. You took that oath in blood, then you know I'm gon' get active with you. Fuck the opposition, I see vision. Let me paint the picture. Rappers claim they spit, I ain't listening. Is in fact the If revenge was a woman, now I scope that bitch like Jack the Ripper. War, we gon' run the summer. It's gon' be historical. Thought they making plays, made them niggas call the audible. Ask who run this shit, but that question is rhetorical. Bitch, I'm the one, me cookies with the oil. I'ma get them crackers, hell should've never kidnapped my family. I can't just do that. Bet I be the last nigga standing. Do a life sentence for my niggas, pray you understand me. I might put a switch on this Glock and call it Young Baby. How you real triggering on them dots? You a bird feeder, claiming he a demon. What's a demon to a cold leader? What he saying something, I ain't hear him. This shit light work. It ain't about who got the gun, it's about who gon' up that pipe first. I turn a bad situation to a game changer. Bring soldiers from the dead, just raised up the chain. Free shots, I'ma look like Aaron Jones when I run it. Never bite the hand and feed you, you won't never get that hand back. He bitchin' about 10%, I don't wanna hear none of that. He dropping sword, fuck him, just make sure you get that cover back. Look around, he ain't with us, probably cause he never was. Now my chin like you with the angels for your brothers. Everybody wanna be Richard Porter, God kill him like Alpo. Play if he want, it's laying in the trunk like Lee Malvo. I'm a certified woman's ass nigga, I am not a toy. Hey, out with that hollow sign, yeah, this the rim accord. Feel like Gullah Jack when I'm in Fayetteville, you feel your boy. Still about my brain, still I think that's all that I do. The way I get that boy lost, they gon' start to call him Elroy. Fuck his game, pop out on them demons like I'm Hellboy.
Alright, Shalom, Yahweh, Shem Yahshua, Barakathon, all the brothers. Shalom, Yahweh, Shemalathon, Shem Yahshua, all the sisters. Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. Salakia, we'll do a mic check right quick. Good night.
I got you, right?
Almost sounded correct. Before we get started, just want to make sure the sound coming through real quick. Don't sound correct. Go on, sir. This is the Friday night Lashawan Qadash class where we break down the scriptures from a linguistics perspective. I mean, we do what your Christian pastor would never in a million years do, because with following after the customs of our oppressor, you know what I mean, with Christianity following after the things that they taught us to teach Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, they have discarded our culture, which is why they don't understand the New Testament. They want to do away with the Old Testament, and they push the lies that they teach in the Christian church. It's a big reason why these Christian Israelite groups or these individualites just don't understand the Bible, no matter how much they comb through it, no matter how long they've been reading it, or whatever the case is. They can't understand the Bible because they don't have the tools to understand the Bible. They don't have the culture and the language, which is what we do up in here. I mean, we break down the scriptures and the Hebrew. All right, tonight. I mean, so with that being said, most high Christ. With that being said, you go ahead and put in your you got any Lashawan Qadash related question, you go ahead put them in the chat. We're gonna go ahead and get started. All right. For the past couple of weeks, we've been going into Bible Hub, reading the scriptures in the English and then translated it in the Hebrew. You know what I mean? Trying to take the training wheels off so that we can actually practice what we've retained from these past classes. Tonight we're gonna kind of go over a little bit of the basics. I mean, things that we've gone over in past classes, but we're gonna kind of we just gonna go and review it real quick, and then kind of hone in on a couple of the you know what I mean, a little bit of couple of the nuances that you might see. I mean, we're gonna go into the prepositions and the possessives. I mean, a lot of times, especially if you new in the truth, if you're a young man, trooper, young officer, you might have a difficult time deciphering the Lashawan Qadash, especially in Bible Hub during Sabbath service. It's like you. Especially in Bible Hub during Sabbath service, you might have a little bit of a difficult time kind of deciphering the Lashawan Qadash, how to pronounce things, how different characters affect the word, things like that. You know what I mean? Where a word is built off of a root word, things like that. Because of these basics. I mean, that's how you get stronger, by understanding these basics, the prepositions, the possessives, and the tenses that we use. All right, just a quick review. So there's 4 steps, and also another important thing that you want to commit to memory. All right. First thing, before we get into these prepositions and possessives, you want to understand these things, and also as well, make sure you have your learning utensils in front of you. Make sure you got your concordance, or your whether you got an app on your phone or you got the physical concordance. Make sure you got your biblical Hebrew workbook and textbook in case you need it, so that you can develop questions, or you know what I mean, if you got your concordance, you can learn how to use these resources to kind of answer some of the questions that you might have, or develop your questions a little bit more in depth. All right, so make sure you got those, and make sure you're taking notes, because what I'm about to put up here in Killeen, Texas, is going to stay up here, Lord willing. You know what I mean? We're going to try to we're going to try our best to keep it up here. I know things wear off over time, but we're going to try to keep it up here. But the best thing for you to do is to take the notes that we're about to put up here, so that you can have it, because this is going to be your foundation, so that you don't have to be confused as we read in the Lashawan Qadash on Saturday. You don't have to be confused as we going over things or breaking things down Friday night, and you don't have to be confused. You know what I mean? You're going to be able to pass this information down to the next brother. I mean, or the, you know what I'm saying, the next sister, or your children, or your wife, and so on and so forth. All right. So the first thing you're going to want to understand is the reason why we're going over this so heavily is because this is the foundation of what you're going to need to be able to understand the Lashawan Qadash. So there's going to be 4 components to be able to understand the Lashawan Qadash. All right. And the first is going to be, well, actually, there's no particular order, but what you're gonna want to understand is that there's 4 steps. Now, there's no particular order. But these 4 steps, one or more, or a combination of all, can be present in any Lashawan Qadash phrase, like we've been going over the past couple weeks in Bible Hub. I mean, you'll see as we broke it down on the, you know what I'm saying, up on a podium, we broke it down and we used the same 4 steps like we're about to go over right now. So this is how important it is. All right. So obviously you got your prepositions, right? Which come before a root word, right? So whenever you see, and we're gonna go over those, I'm gonna save that for a little bit. I'm gonna save the you know what I mean, the in-depth explanation for when we actually go over it, but you're gonna see it in a little bit when we go over it. Then you got the next step, which is your possessives. Right? Your possessives come after a root word. And those are going to give you the context of whether it's first, second, or third person, basically who we're talking about. Right? And then third, obviously, is going to be the root word. And again, this isn't in any particular order, but all of these things are going to be important. Right? So your root word is going to be, if your preposition comes before the root word, your possessor comes after the root word, your root word is going to be in the middle. So you can automatically, or not in all cases, but if you've never seen a particular phrase before, or you're having a hard time deciphering how to break down a phrase, you can automatically, a good place to start is to look to see if you got any prepositions that you recognize. That's going to be typical, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But there's certain prepositions that are typical that you're going to see commonly, especially at the beginning of a scripture. Like if you start at the beginning of a book, chapter and verse, it's usually going to start with a particular set of prepositions. And then the same with possessive. There's going to be a couple possessive that you're going to see over and over again. All right. And that's going to help you identify your root word. Or if you read it in Bible Hub, you can just click on the concordance code, and it's going to take you to the root word. Because when you click on that concordance code, that concordance code is going to separate the root word from your preposition and possessive, and that's going to make it easy as well. But you do want to train your eye to be able to see, you do want to train your eye to be able to separate the root word from, the preposition and possessive. And it's not a hard thing to do. That's another thing as well. That's why we're going over this again. It's not a hard thing to do, but you're just gonna have to put the work in. You're gonna have to just commit yourself to doing it. It doesn't even take a lot of time. You might just take a day or two to just focus in on what we're gonna write on this board. You gotta take a picture, take a screenshot, rewind, or whatever you gotta do to make sure you get this information down. But once you get this information down, and we're gonna go over it tonight, then you're gonna be straight on dealing with the Lashawan Qadash. And then your question, you might just then you can develop your questions from there. You can you know what I mean, well, we'll leave it at that. You'll just be able to develop your questions more you know what I mean, in-depth questions from there, right? But this is what you're gonna need. All right, so you got your prepositions come before your root word, your possessives come after the root word. Then you got your root word, which you can just look at the concordance code, and it'll give you. That's what's gonna build your vocabulary as well, right? So you understanding your root words, being able to separate the root word from your preposition, your possessive, and your the fourth step, your tenses. All right. So you got pluralization, you got masculine, feminine, servile tense. You have your doing tense. You have and we're gonna go over a couple of those things, but you might have something in the middle of your root word or at the end of your root word that's gonna change the tense, which you know what I mean, which we just kind of touched on a little bit. Whether it's gonna make your root word go from a singular tense to a plural tense, or go from just a general tense to a servile tense, or to a feminine tense. You know what I mean, for understanding purposes, uh, categories, or if it goes from a doing from just a general root word to a doing tense. You know what I mean? Just being able to identify these is going to help you be able to. It's going to help you again be able to understand the Lashawan Qadash when you're just reading through it, and it's going to help you learn as well. You know what I mean? Through Sabbath service, and I catch myself doing this as well. But a lot of times, when you see certain things, or see how words are used, or see you see how tenses are used, prepositions, possessives are used, it might spark up a question. Of course, during Sabbath service, you don't really have the time to be able to pause and, you know what I mean, be able to write down or ask those questions right then and there, because we're holding a service. But that's what Friday night is for, where you can comb through these things. That's why we've been going over Friday night. We've been going over what we're going to go into during Sabbath service, so that you can ask those questions during Friday night Lashawan Qadash class, so you don't have to like rush or feel pressured to, like, you know what I mean, just hold the service. But just going over these things and seeing these four steps, especially reading it during Friday night Lashawan Qadash class, going over these steps and seeing these things, it's going to help build your vocabulary. Like, okay, why did this preposition turn this root word from this to this? Why is this tense used here? Why is this possessive here? How did this become this? You know what I mean? How did this root word go from this to this? You know what I mean? Just understanding these four steps is going to help you be able to build your vocabulary and your understanding of Lashawan Qadash. All right. So we got those four steps. We're going to talk about each of these four steps a little bit in depth. And, you know what I mean, Salaki, if I'm moving a little fast, we've went over this in depth in past classes, class after class. We go over this every Sabbath, you know what I'm saying, every Sabbath service, every Lashawan Qadash class that we've done. We've gone over all these four steps. We've gone over what we're going to go over tonight. So this is just basically review. So if I'm going a little fast, Baba Kashah, if you got a question, you know what I mean, feel free to put it in the chat, and you can go ahead and ask your question. I'll slow down, break something down a little bit more in depth. But this is just for the sake of you having this in your notes. You know what I mean? So the first thing, Salaki, speaking of notes, let me make sure I get my notes. The first thing you want to have in your notes, the first thing that you're going to typically get familiar with is your prepositions. You know what I mean? Again, this is going to help you build a foundation of where to start. You know what I mean? A lot of the hardest part of doing pretty much anything is starting. So that's typically why brothers tend to get discouraged at Lashawan Qadash, or discouraged doing anything. You know what I mean? Discouraged in coming in the truth. Discouraged in, you know what I mean, trying to you know what I'm saying, getting in class, getting in these scriptures, asking your questions. You know what I mean? That's typically the reason why brothers and sisters have a hard time starting something, because that's the hardest thing. You know what I mean? Just jumping in and starting. But you know what I mean, once you go ahead and start, then you can go ahead and just compound your understanding, get used to the process. All right. But we start with them prepositions, and again, you're not gonna get it right away. You're not gonna get it right away necessarily. Some brothers might, some sisters might. You know what I mean? But you might not get it right away, but you're just gonna have to put in that practice. And as you read in the Lashawan Qadash, there's nothing wrong with, you know what I mean, having these notes in front of you and reading the Lashawan Qadash line by line, phrase by phrase, and checking your notes as you're reading it. There's nothing wrong with doing that, so that you can get more familiar. And then as we move forward, or as you get as you use your notes, you know what I mean, practice practice quizzing yourself. Since you didn't use your notes for so long, flip your notes over and then look at a phrase, see if you can decipher it without your notes. Take the training wheels off, like we've been doing for the past couple weeks. But that's how you're gonna learn. But you're not gonna get more comfortable than you are by not uh, attacking this thing head on. I mean, being aggressive about getting our culture and identity back. Just like just like your oppressor was aggressive about taking your culture away from you. Right. So it's a couple prepositions you want to be familiar with. Salakia. And your prepositions are just characters of the or of the Lashawan Qadash alphabet, for lack of better description. But all of these characters, all these prepositions and possessives are just characters that you'll see in the beginning or the end of a word. All right. So that if that's something that you're not familiar with as well, again, you want to get familiar with that, the Lashawan Qadash alphabet. So Abba Gada Hawaza, Kha Tayaka, La Manasa I, Pataza Kwa, Ra, Sha, and Ta. Right? It's not going to be all of them, and that's something that you want to be familiar with. It's not going to be every character isn't a preposition or possessive. I mean, it's only a couple of them. We're going to go over them, but you want to make sure you're familiar with the Lashawan Qadash alphabet, and then be familiar with which characters are associated with a preposition or a possessive and which are not. All right. We got I, Ba, Da, Ha, Wa, Ya, Ka, La, Ma, Sha, and Ta. All right. Now you're not going to see every character of the Lashawan Qadash alphabet up on here as a preposition or possessor, but you do want to get familiar. All right. Now your is gonna, a lot of these you're gonna especially if you've been participating in Sabbath service, a lot of these you're gonna see more often than others. Sure. But you do want to be familiar with all of them, because you're gonna see all of them at different points in the scriptures, and you don't want any of these things to trip you up. You know what I mean, your in the Assyrian Hebrew, because we're reading in Bible Hub. It's written in Assyrian Hebrew. It's written in the Assyrian Hebrew. It's gonna look like this. And that's another thing you want to practice as well, since we're on the topic. Like, since we're on the topic, you want to make sure you practicing your penmanship as well. Because it's one thing to read the Lashawan Qadash. It's a whole another thing to write the Lashawan Qadash, and it's another thing to speak the Lashawan Qadash. You want to be familiar with all three of those components of the Lashawan Qadash. Because you could be very fluent and efficient in reading the Lashawan Qadash, but then Sabbath service, you gotta speak the Lashawan Qadash. You gotta say these characters. You know what I mean? And reading it in your head is a totally different ball game than actually speaking it, especially before the nation. And then writing it as well. I mean, same thing. It's a different thing writing the Lashawan Qadash characters and getting familiar, just as familiar as you are with the English language, get familiar with your language. All right. But so what your ah looks like, when you see an ah in the beginning of a root word, a lot of times it'll mean I or I am. Right. Now don't get that, don't get it confused with you know what I mean, or root words that start with the character ah, right? You wanna you wanna make sure you make that distinction as well. All right. But just again, getting familiar with these characters, getting familiar with your language and your culture, then you'll get more familiar with being able to distinguish between whether a character or a root word starts with the character I, or a preposition, the character that's associated with a preposition, or if if it has a preposition attached to it, or if it just starts with that character. So you want to keep that in mind as well. All right. So you got I. When you see I, it means I or I am. All right. Now there's a formal way to say these things as well. We might get into that later, but typically, we're gonna go through the preposition, then I'll explain later. All right. So I or I am. Ba looks like this. All right. Now, if you got you know what I'm saying, in your notes, I advise brothers and sisters to write it down in the Assyrian and the ancient Hebrew, but just for the sake of having limited space up on this board, and the fact that these texts that we read, the concordance, the Bible Hub, Blue Letter Bible, things like that are written in the Assyrian. I'm going to just write it in the Assyrian so that you can get used to seeing it, you know what I mean, and associating these characters with prepositions and possessors. But if you got, you know what I mean, what I would advise brothers and sisters is to write the characters in the Assyrian and the ancient as well. Well, ba looks like this right here. This preposition means in or on. All right. Da looks like this here. It means to do or make. Of course, a lot of these characters are gonna be used more often than others. Like is you might see uh, in front of a root word less often than, or you might see less often. You 9 times out of 10, if you see I, 9 times out of 10, you're going to see the formal way to say it, which is anya, which is I or I am. It means the same thing. But you might see a couple times in the scriptures where it'll use the character I in front of a root word. But a lot of times you might see certain things, certain nuances, like the formal way to say certain things, or you know what I mean. And we're gonna get into it a little bit more as we get all these down. But you might see certain nuances just for the sake of the flow of the language, not to get, not to have us be tongue tied while we trying to communicate with one another. Because that's the whole point of a language, to be able to communicate effectively, right? So you might see certain characters be used or certain words be used in place of a preposition or possessive, just for the sake of flow. Or you might see things used more often than not. Ba is going to be one of your more commonly used prepositions, right? You're gonna see that as we go over Sabbath service and as we get into deeper lessons in the Lashawan Qadash. All right. Ha looks like this. Another very commonly used preposition means the. Wa, another one that's commonly used. And ya, this one very common, right? Meaning he, his, or it. Ka looks like this. Not to be confused with the alternative character, which might look like this at the end. We're gonna get to that in the possessives when we get to those. But you're gonna make a note of that as well. But at the beginning of a word, it looks like, or at the beginning or the middle of a word, it looks like this. All right. But a ka at the beginning of a word that looks like this, it's gonna mean like or as. All right. We got la, looks like this. Which means two or four. And this would be a good time to check your notes as well. If you already got these things down, which you already should, it would be wise to go ahead and check what you got to make sure you got the correct thing down. All right. Ma looks like this. This is another character that changes if it's at the end of a word. If it's a possessive, if it's ma as a possessive, it's going to look different than ma as a preposition. It's another character you want to keep an eye out for. But at the beginning or the middle of a word, this character is going to look like this. At the beginning as a preposition, it's going to look like this. All right. And it means of or from. Sha, next. It's going to look like that. And it means which or pertain to. All right. And then lastly, we got tha. Which means thou or thee. Or in modern English translation, you. All right. Now, before we move on to the next the next portion, which is possessives, you want to get familiar with a couple of these, like we talked about earlier. A couple of these is going to be used more often than others. All right, just real quick, what I would do if I was you is just make a quick note of certain characters that's going to be used more often than others. So you got your ba we talked about, ha, which means the, wa, and, ya, very common, ka, all right? And then you got your tha as well. I'll put it up there. So these are going to be used more commonly than others, right? So again, you might see a every now and then, meaning I or I am, but you might see an alternative word as well. Da is very not used very commonly, though it is in the scriptures. I mean, I don't want you to look at these things and think that they're not in the scripture. You don't got to worry about them or scrap them. But just so you can, if you starting from the bottom, or you just now getting in class, or you trying to learn and get a grasp on a language, it might be wise to hone in and practice with the characters that come up the most often, right? And those are just going to be these here that we got underlined, right? So you got your ba, meaning inner on, ha, the, wa, and, ya, he, his, or it, ka, like or as, and tha, meaning you. All right. And then also, salakia, and your la as well. All right. And then also you got a couple characters that changes the word completely. Like, okay, for example, we use just so I'm gonna use a word that we use or we should be familiar with, right? So mayum, right? Right? Mayum, which means sea, or salakia, which means water. All right. So you got your root word water, right? You got you add one of these prepositions that are commonly used that we got underlined. It just goes from, like, for example, let's add a ha to the beginning, right? So a preposition ha, right? So the word goes from mayum being the root word, water, you add a ha to the beginning, it just goes from water to the water, right? You add a ba to the beginning, right? It goes from water to in the water, right? Baha mayum. It goes from the water to in the water, right? So on and so forth. You could take any preposition or you could take those prepositions that we just discussed and it's going to be the same concept. Now you got a couple of them that changes the word completely, right? Now I'm going to give you these two examples. The main examples are going to be your ma. And again, just for the sake of your notes and your understanding of the Lashawan Qadash, I advise you to take these notes very, very carefully and very specific, right? Be very detailed in how you take these notes because this is going to be your foundation and how you understand and learn and compound your knowledge in the Lashawan Qadash. All right. So using the same word, mayum, right? Now remember, these words, as I said, this star that I just put next to them, you could maybe color code your notes or whatever the case, whatever you got to do. But just understand that if you add a ma or a sha in front of a root word, a lot of the times, not every time, but a lot of the times, it completely changes the word itself. And I'll give you an example. So you got mayum, right? Which means water. You add a sha to the beginning. Now the preposition sha means which or pertaining to, right? In a general sense. But when you add a sha to the beginning of mayum, you don't just say the word or the phrase it doesn't become pertaining to water, right? Or which water, right? That's not how the word is translated. But when you add that sha to the beginning of water, the word goes from mayum to shamayum, meaning heavens, right? Or pertaining to waters. But when you read shamayum, you don't translate it pertaining to waters. You translate it as heaven because the heavens pertain to water. You know what I mean? It has the similar properties as water. You know what I mean? You leave this atmosphere, you leave the earth, and the properties of beyond that firmament is similar or the same as water. That's why the gear that you use to go underwater, deep underwater, is the same gear or similar gear or pertains to the gear that you would use in the heavens, right? So that's how that sha works. You see that sha? Just know that that word is 9 times out of 10 built off of this root or whatever the root word is that it's attached to, right? But just know when you see that sha, it's gonna change the root word completely. Change the root word to something that pertains to the original root word, but it's gonna build an entirely new root word off of the original root word that the preposition was added to. And I'm gonna give you another example. All right. So we understand the sha, right? If you got any questions about the sha, if you don't understand the sha, I know I'm going fast. But again, these are things that we've already went over. You can go to past classes and get the complete in-depth step-by-step breakdown and several examples within the class. But if you don't understand the sha, you can go ahead and go back to those classes, or you can just put it in the chat and I'll break it down a little bit deeper. All right. So you understand the sha, right? Now we're gonna go into the ma, because the ma does a similar thing, right? So the ma, you add a ma to the beginning of a word. Now you take let's take the same root word, right? So you got mayum. Mayum means water. But what we typically a lot of times, especially if we just getting familiar with the Lashawan Qadash, a lot of times we don't even realize that this, just like shamayim, that sha at the beginning of shamayim is a preposition added to a root word. This ma at the beginning of mayum is a preposition added to another root word. So yum is a root word, right? It's a lot here. Yum is a root word that means sea, right? But when you add a ma, a lot of times when you add a ma to the beginning of a word, same with sha, it changes the root word completely. So instead of, now we know ma, like we just went over, ma means of or from, right? So if this word means sea, that ma in the beginning, mayum must mean from, of, or from the sea, right? But that's correct. But also you got to understand that this ma changes the root word completely. So instead of saying of or from the sea, which is true, yum becomes my yum, which is, like we just went over, water, which is from the sea. Water comes from the sea, all right? So instead of, whenever you see this root word right here, my yum, you don't say from the sea or of the sea. You say water. But that's how these two prepositions work. Typically, when you see them, it's going to change the Slovakia. It's going to change the root word completely. And understanding that as well is going to help build your vocabulary. As you see these things, you don't have to be confused. You don't have to be confused when you see these things. Because again, like we talked about in past classes, typically, and the best way for you to, typically, a lot of times when you, the best way to be able to identify your root word and separate it from your preposition and your possessives is to understand that your root word is going to have 2 to 3 characters. Most commonly, it's going to be 3 characters. But like we just broke down here, sometimes you might have a root word that has 2 characters. Right? You might have a root word that has 4 characters, like we just broke down again with the example of shamayim. That's a root word built off of a preposition added to a root word, right? And salaki, just to give it another layer, right? Shamayim, as you probably already put together, shamayim is a root word with 2 prepositions attached to it, right? So, like we said earlier, your root words can have between typically 3 characters, but you might have a root word that has 2 characters. You might have a root word that has 4 characters, but typically it's 3 characters. And you see right here in shamayim is a root word by itself, but it's built off of adding a ma to the beginning of a root word that has 2 characters from yum, which is sea. You add that ma to the beginning of it. Now it goes from yum to mayum. Now you got 3 characters, which is a root word. Mayum meaning water. It goes from sea to water. And then you add a sha, which is another preposition. Now you have a root word that has 4 characters. But all you did was just add another preposition, right? So it goes from sea, yum, to water, mayum, to heaven, shamayum, right? But that's what you want to understand about these 2 characters, this ma and this sha. When you see, and that's the easiest example. That's the easiest example to, that's the most common example that you're going to see. But that's the most common example you're going to see of what we're talking about right here. But sometimes you might see a root word that has, a ma. Like, for example, I'm going to give you this as well before we move on to the next portion. All right. So you got shapat, right? Sha, pa, and ta. Right? Meaning judge. Right? Now this right here is a root word. All right? Now, if you add, typically just to do what we just did earlier, right? Typically, if you add a preposition, it goes from, like, for example, you add a ha to the beginning of the root word. I ain't spelled this right, did I? Oh, you missed the G. Most High Christ. That's what I. Salakia. Most High not the water. Yeah, the white man's language is it's like your oppressor's language is the language of devils.
Right.
Like you. But so you got shapat, right? Now typically when you add a preposition to a root word, then it just goes from shapat, which is judge, to hashapat, the judge. So when you speak when you add the preposition and when you speak it, you just say it as is. So it goes from judge to the judge. But when you add one of these, we're gonna go with this ma right here. You add a ma to the beginning of judge. It makes the word, now it goes from shapat to mashapat, right? Now it's not, here's where it gets a little tricky, right? When you add that ma, you automatically, especially once you first start getting into the Lashawan Qadash, you what your brain wants to do is just say from a judge, or of a judge. But as we said before, that's why we got these stars next to it. Once you add a ma or a shot to the beginning of a word, 9 times out of 10, you're changing the entire root word itself. So you're creating a whole different root word. So it goes from shapat, judge, to mashapat, which is a whole new root word, which means judgment. And it's easy to understand, easy to remember, because judgment comes from a judge. All right. So that's just another example of how these things are used. But if you can get these down pat, now again, the things that I've underlined are just going to be commonly used prepositions. And it's easy, it's good to start with those because you're going to see those a lot. As you combing through the Lashawan Qadash, as you're going through the Sabbath service, you're going to see those every time. Every scripture, every book, chapter, verse, you're going to see those guaranteed. But then these are things that you might not see as often, but it's important to hone in on these and see how these characters affects your root word, and then understanding how these characters affect your root word instead of looking at a root word and being like, or you'll see a root word and it has 4 characters, right? It'll have 4 characters, and you can be like, why does this root word have 4 characters? You know what I mean, because typically your root word has 2 or 3 characters, but you see these right here, and then you can ask the question, okay, why has this got 4 characters? You see a ma or a sha in front of a root word, then you like, okay, I automatically know that this word, ma shapat, is built off of this smaller root word. If I take, okay, if you see a root word with a ma or sha in front of it, you can take that ma or sha off of it and get another root word and double how you build your vocabulary. So like, okay, I just learned, say you've never seen this before in your life, right? You read in the scriptures, right? And you see mashapat. It's like, okay, mashapat is judgment. And if you reading it in Bible Hub, you click that concordance code, it's going to show you mashapat. It's going to separate the root word. But you can do a little bit deeper digging just by understanding this concept. So you can take off that ma and be like, okay, mashapat is judgment. But if I take off that ma, you can search what shapat is, and then now you just learn 2 root words. Now you just learn judgment, and now you just learn judge. Right? But those 2 characters it's gonna help you. It's gonna help you understand. It's gonna help declutter. You know what I mean? These phrases that we're gonna run into during Sabbath service. All right. And Salaki Priest, at any time, if you wanted to chime in or anything like that, Baba can shot.
Oh, damn right. I'm in class right now.
Most High Christ. Next part we're gonna get into is the possessives, right? we're gonna get into the possessors, and just like we did with the prepositions, we're gonna break down the basics. We're gonna break down what we already understand, and then we're gonna get into a little bit of the nuances, the things that don't come up as often, but you know what I mean. You're gonna once you understand these nuances, it's gonna help you be able to. It's gonna help demystify the Lashawan Qadash, right? Or make it clear to understand. All right, so the possessors, or the prepositions come before the root word, right? Your possessors come after, right? It's gonna be real important to understand. All right, now the basic ones, right? The basic characters, you got your lock. You got Ya, Ka, Wa, Ha, Noah, Kam, Khan, Ma, and Na. All right. And before, so like it just jogged my memory. Before we get into the possessors, I want to talk about the character Na, right? As a not a preposition, but if you see a Na at the beginning of a word, or Salakia. Salakia, not Na, Salakia. Ya, Salakia. This Ya right here. It's another one. Let's go ahead and add that to it. So it's basically in the same boat as his Ma and Sha. Sometimes seeing that character at the beginning of a word is going to completely change the word itself. Like, let me look this up real quick. My Bible or my two-letter lookup been tripping lately, but Lord willing, I can pull this up just to get this example. But let me see real quick. Yeah, my two-letter lookup tripping. Let me get this concordance real quick. But okay, so when you see a ya at the beginning of a root word, a lot of times this root word can be replaced with a preposition or possessive, right? So instead of let me use this as an example, right? So this word yathun. Let me see. Let me figure out what this word means. It has something to do with giving or to. What's up?
Is or something like that?
Nah. So this is a root word. Right?
Oh, right.
Yathun. Right. But this root word and okay, so this preposition does mean he, his, or it. Mm-hmm. But this preposition right here, it'll change. Like if you add something to it, or if you like instead of like how we talked about mayum, right? Mayum means water. You add ha at the beginning of mayum, it becomes ha mayum, meaning the water, right? Yathun, or that ya in the beginning, instead of adding the preposition will replace the ya. Does that make sense?
It changes.
Yeah. Let me see what ya means real quick. Or the yathun, salaki. But it has something to do with giving, and that's the whole point. Is y'all having problems accessing two-letter lookup? Okay, yeah. I don't know what's going on with that. Look at the house, yeah. Let me select you. Bear with me just 1 second. Select you. Yeah. But that ya is built off of. All right, so your thumb, right? While I'm looking for that, you might recognize this word. Nothing, right? We know what that means, right? Right. That means what?
Oh, it means dang, it slipped my mind. It's the Lord's Prayer. Bless. No, Brian. Oh, that's Brian.
Nathan.
Give us.
See if any brother got in the chat.
Actually, it's not.
Oh, it is in the Lord's Prayer.
Okay. It's give us.
Khan.
Okay.
Right. So Nathan Lanawa is give us.
Right.
So you take the prepositions, or you take the possessive off, and you take the tense off, the pluralization, or you take that off, and it leaves Nathan, which means give. Right. So Nathan means give, right? And then you got Muthan. Muthan. Right. And it's one of the body parts, but it means another word as well that pertains to give. So you almost got it. Well, Muthan, on the body parts list that Officer Khan went over, it means hips or waist, right? Or Salakia, waist. Salakia. It also means gift, right? You already know you got you a woman with a waist, you got yourself a gift, right? And that's how we built words, you know what I mean, in the Lashawan Qadash. We just built words off of other words, right? But Muthan means gift. In all of these words, this na right here and this ma right here just replaced the ya to create another word. All right. Salakia. Still looking for this. Yathan. Yathun means it, but it pertains for time's sake. It has something to do with giving. It's in that ballpark, just like Nathun is give, Muthun is gift. Yathun means it has something to do with giving or like giving to something or gift or something like that.
Okay.
But that's how that word is built off of, and that ya is built off of that ya. So instead of just adding a character in the front of a word, when you do that with a ya, with a root word that starts with a ya, not a lot of times that ya is just replaced as opposed to just adding it to it. All right. All right. So these possessives, right? So with all those prepositions, those are we just went over all the basics. We went over a couple of the nuances. So once you see these things, we should be good to go. All right. Now these possessives, right? We're gonna do the same thing. Go over what's typical and then go over what's not typical. All right. So that ya, when you see a ya at the end, of course, we already know that a possessive comes at the end of a root word. So a ya at the end, as opposed to the beginning of a root word, is me or my. All right. So salak ya, me or my. Forgive me, salak ya. Salak is the root word meaning forgive. Ya means me or my. All right. Ka is you or your. Wa means he or his or it. Ha means her. Nawa is our, we, or us. Kam is your. There, or Salakia. Khan is your. Or Salakia. Kam is your, which is masculine, plural. So if I'm saying, if I like ka is you or your singular masculine or singular in general. When you're talking in general, it's usually used in a masculine tense. When you say Khan is you or your in a or Slaki, when you say Khan is your the masculine and plural tense. When you say Khan is your feminine plural tense. And then Ma is there. Right? Which is third person masculine plural. And then Na is there. Third person feminine plural. All right. Now these are just the basics. You're gonna see all of these. You're gonna see all of these used pretty much all throughout the scripture, depending on who we're talking about, what the context is, or whatever the case is. These up here are just gonna be these are gonna be first person. So you saw down here that Ma is third person. Khan is gonna be second person. Right? Second person masculine plural for Khan. Salaki. and then Khan is second person feminine plural, right? The rest of these are gonna be first person singular, right? Now the only thing that you're gonna see that's gonna be a little bit different with the Lashawan Qadash with these possessors is this yas, right? Now sometimes when you see this ya, it'll just be used as a buffer between a preposition. When you see a ya, it'll be used as a buffer in between a preposition or a salakia, between a possessive, between a root word and a possessive. So, for example, like we just saw in the Lord's Prayer, all right. So it said, "Lathun lanawa, lakam call yawam," right? And Nathun lanawa or salakia. Okay, a better example would be so in that portion where it says wasalakya nawa, kabawat nawa, kasalak nawa, kabawat ya nawa, right? You see those yas in between, right? It's just acting as a buffer to let you know that this it's basically a buffer to help with flow of the language, right? But when you see that ya in between a root word and a possessive, like between salak and Noah, forgive us. When you see salak ya nawa, that ya is just acting as a buffer to act as a buffer to help the language flow a little better. But other than that, the possessors are pretty straightforward. The only other thing that you would have to just keep an eye out for is the what's it called, the whether we're talking in first, second, or third person, or what the what the perspective is. Like we just went over these up here, ya, ka, wa, and ha are first person singular, right? When you get to Nawa, it's going to be first person plural because now we're talking about us, we, myself included, right? Now we're talking about you, or your. Now we're introducing the second person to the conversation. So now it's second person. So com and con are second person masculine, second person plural. And then lastly, we got there. So now we're not talking about me or you. We're talking about me and you are talking about them. So now we just introduced a third person. So now ma and na, there, or ma meaning there is third person masculine plural, and na meaning there is third person feminine plural. All right. Let's see, before we get out of here, what time is it?
It's 8:18.
You said 8:18? Okay, more time crazy. All right, I'm gonna go through this real quick. And we're gonna get up out of here. All right, so lastly, we just went over the prepositions, the possessives, and the root words. Now we're gonna talk about a couple of these tenses. All right. So we talked about earlier. We talked about pluralization, right? Select. We just keep it right here. So you got pluralization tense. You got your feminine or servile tense. You got your categorization. You got oh yeah, you're doing tense. All right. Your tenses are gonna come. Your tenses are gonna come either in the middle of a word, or at the end of a word. All right. Your pluralization tense. There's a couple of ways to do this. Your pluralization. You can use yum, wath. Uh, those are the pretty. Those are the pretty generic, straightforward ways that you'll see in the scriptures to say something to pluralize something. All right. You got feminine or servile. That'll usually have a ha, which you saw here in the possessors. That ha means her, or that's a lot. You say ha, or you might see tha, or you might see wa. All right. Or categorizations, right? Meaning talking about different levels of something, right? You'll typically see tha, right? All right. So for example, the most common example is using father, right? We might look at we might see, and I'm gonna put this up here as well because as we trying to understand this concept, we might see the thought at the end of a word, and we might, depending on the context, we might see it and be like, okay, this is pluralization, right? And that might be the easiest way to understand it until you can get this concept, but it goes a layer deeper. That thought at the end of a root word is talking about categories of something. Like, for example, using fathers, right? Now, if you have, this ain't your oppressors, you know what I mean? Your oppressors, LGBTQ kingdom, where you can have two, you know what I'm saying, two daddies. You know what I mean? That's not how the Most High roll. You have one physical father where you came from, but when you read in the scriptures, when it talks about fathers, it's not talking about having more than one father, more than one birth father. It's talking about categories of fathers. So you got your birth father, and then you got your grandfather, and then you got your great grandfather, and so on and so forth. You got your forefathers. So instead of seeing, when you see, for example, father is Abba, right? Instead of seeing Abba Young, implying that you have more than one birth father, you'll see Abath. So when you see Abath in the scriptures, it's talking about your different categories of fathers. So your father, your grandfather, your great grandfather, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Usually that's the typical reference when you see fathers, or is usually referencing forefathers, and the most common reference is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So when you see that, it's not talking about plural, it's talking about category, right? And then of course you got your doing tense. In the middle of a word, you'll see that wa, right? You see that wa in the middle of a word, right? So shamar is watch. Shawamar is watching, right? Uh, Shamai is here. Salakia. Let me think. Salakia. But that's how the wa works, right? I can't think of any more examples off the top of my head. It might come to me. If it does, I'll drop it. If not, then let me see. Lashawan, right? So Lashan is tongue. Lashawan, when you add a wa in the middle of a root word, it's talking about, now we're not talking about the tongue, the member in your mouth that speaks a language. It's now talking about what the tongue is doing, right? It's not talking about the member, the muscle. It's talking about what it's doing. So Lashawan means it's referring to what your tongue is doing or language, speaking the language. All right. Same with the word Adawan, right? So Adawan is built off of the root word Adon, which means Lord.
Right.
Now you add a wa in the middle of Adon, that's talking about what your Lord is doing. Your Lord is giving you orders. He's giving you commands. He's guiding you. He's being a Lord over you. So that's why we say Khan Adawan Khan, because you're receiving an order from what your Lord is doing, right? So that's the function of the wa. This whole thing right here, and I'm gonna try to keep this on a board. I'm gonna try to keep this on a board as long as possible. This is gonna be the complete cheat sheet, right? So what I would advise is take a screenshot, write it down. What I really advise is writing it down so you can. That's how you get it in your memory, by writing it. Now, if you take a picture or take a screenshot, it's just gonna be a picture in your phone. I'm just keeping it a buck with you. It's just gonna be in your phone, and you're gonna forget you ever did it, and you're not gonna be able to retain it as well as if you write it down yourself. But this is gonna be a complete cheat sheet. So when we in Sabbath service, you're gonna be able to use these 4 steps right here. You already know any phrase that you look at, you're gonna be using these 4 steps, and then you can go from these 4 steps. Okay, what are my prepositions? You can remember your prepositions here. Okay, do I have any possessive? You know your possessives here. You know your root words. You know how to, you know your tenses. You can okay, is this a pluralization tense? Do we got a servile tense? Do we got categories? Are we talking about something that's being done? And then from there, you can get your root word. You can go in the Bible Hub, Blue Letter Bible, or whatever you need. Click that concordance code or use the physical concordance that we got here and get your root word, build your vocabulary. And then you, once you see these, you got your nuances, these things that might not occur commonly, but they are important to understand. Like your Yah we talked about, your Ma, your Sha, and seeing that buffer at the end, at the end of a root word. Sometimes it's used to say me or my, or sometimes it's just used as a buffer between a root word and the rest of your possessives. But it's going to be a complete cheat sheet. And then from there, you can add or tweak it or whatever is going to be more comfortable to you or what's going to help you understand the Lashawan Qadash from there. But this is going to be the foundation. And if you got this, then you pretty much understand the Lashawan Qadash. And then you can ask more developed questions. You can kind of build your vocabulary, build your understanding of Lashawan Qadash from there. So with that, if there are no questions or comments, we'll go ahead and end it right there. Let me check the chat for questions. Good night. Nah. Well, since you asked about it, I'm gonna go ahead and address this man in the chat, Vlad the Kababer. This man talking about he Russian.
You shouldn't have said that. You should have said that.
You said I shouldn't?
Vlad the Kababer?
Vlad the Kababer, yeah. That's the brother name.
No, it's
Or not the brother, but that's his.
But the correct word is Vlad the Impaler, but Kababer, like.
Oh yeah. But
You get absolute credit to say that shit.
it's a lot, kid.
Hella far. Go ahead.
But yeah, he asked. He said, "I'm Russian. Can I join the ISUPK?" If you Russian, if your father is Russian from that nation of people, no. But if you would have to. I would have to know more about you. 9 times out of 10, no, you cannot. If you are full-blooded Russian, then no, you are not. Most on Christ, Salakia. But with that, let's say Amajum means to stand. Go give courtesy salute to the brothers. The Visual Amajum Shabbat. Amajum, Barak. Yadu Matah. So we're going to turn face the sisters, give a courtesy salute to the sisters. The Visual Amajum Shabbat. Amajum, Barak.
Yahweh Shemar Latam Bashim Yahushua.
Yadu Matah. Dismiss.